Number 9. The threat of a break-in. On July 31st, 2020, a father in Sydney, Ohio, fatally shot his daughter's ex-boyfriend as he tried to break into their home. 22-year-old James Rail had been trying to forcefully enter the house of his former girlfriend, Alison Duckrow, located at 2907 Encuther Road. The surveillance footage captured by a Ring camera around 11 a.m. shows Rail at the front door, wearing a baseball cap, blue hoodie, grey t-shirt and shorts. He repeatedly rang the doorbell, waiting for minutes with his hands folded behind his back. He then opened the screen door and tried the handle, then forcefully pushed against the door using his body weight. At this point, Alison's father, Mitchell Duckrow, could be heard warning Rail through the door, saying, "I've got a gun," but Rail continued trying to gain entry. Rail's persistence led him to break the deadbolt lock, slightly opening the door. In response, Mitchell fired 3 rounds at Rail, hitting him in the left shoulder, right shoulder and back. Rail staggered back and collapsed around the corner of the house in front of the garage door. Afterward, a neighbor named Jeffrey Hereford appeared, cautioning Mitchell not to shoot him and mentioning that Rail did not have a gun. Police arrived around 8 minutes later, but Rail had already succumbed to his injuries and died. The evidence, including surveillance footage, 911 call and voicemail, was presented to a Shelby County grand jury. This jury decided by a vote of 8-1 not to indict Mitchell, citing Ohio's Stand Your Ground and Castle Doctrine laws that permit homeowners to use lethal force when threatened. While some individuals, including Rail's family, disagree with this decision and believe that Rail had no ill intentions, Mitchell managed to walk away without facing any consequences. Number 8. A tiff in the friendship. On August 4th, 2021, a former convict from Georgia murdered her friend in Brooklyn, and the entire incident was caught on camera. 42-year-old Delia Johnson died at the hands of 42-year-old Claudia Banton as she was shot in the back of the head while she talked to people near a stoop in Crown Heights. Banton, who spent 7 years in a Georgia prison for forgery and has felony convictions in Georgia and New Jersey, was arrested in Florida and later extradited to New York. Despite her arrest right after the shooting, Banton was released by the police as they had initially believed the shooter to be male, but the incident was captured on camera, showing Banton walking up to Johnson and firing multiple shots at her head. Johnson collapsed right on the spot as Banton walked away calmly from the scene. Johnson's mother described the perpetrator as a family friend who lured her daughter to her death through a phone call. Johnson's family mentioned that she had a troubling friendship with Banton in the weeks before the murder, and they had a lot of arguments. Banton's previous interactions with the law included arrests under the aliases Claudia Williams and Claudia Johnson for forgery in Georgia and New Jersey. The victim was an entrepreneur who was raising her 17-year-old daughter. She was known for her skills in piano and tap dancing, and had taken care of her mother during her illness. The family described her as loving and supportive, recalling instances where she was there for them in times of need. The court prosecuted Banton on charges related to the murder, and she pleaded not guilty. No information on her sentencing has been released since then. Number 7. An unsolved mystery. On January 2nd, 2008, Jason Vesper was stabbed 16 times, and while the entire incident was caught on camera, his murderer remains a mystery to this day. On the night of his murder, Jason started a journey that would lead to his brutal death, all of which was closely documented by security cameras. The night was marked by an argument with his wife Debbie, and he left their home in Scottsbluff, Nebraska to cool off. The footage begins with Jason backing his blue Dodge Dakota pickup truck out of his driveway around 12:46 a.m. He heads to a nearby convenience store, briefly speaking to his 17-year-old son Joshua, who was at his girlfriend's place. Jason's actions are recorded by cameras, capturing his movements inside the store, even as he meets another customer briefly. Jason leaves the store at around 12:56 a.m. and is seen stopping at an intersection. This is where his path crosses with his assailant. A vehicle turns in front of him, and there's a moment of exchange or confrontation. Jason circles the block and returns to the intersection. only to be followed by the other vehicle whose headlights flash urgently. The pursuit is captured by security cameras, and as the chase intensifies, Jason makes a fatal decision. At 14th and Avenue F, out of the view of cameras, Jason is attacked and stabbed brutally by his assailant. Despite the severity of the attack, Jason manages to drive away. Bleeding and barely hanging on, Jason's final moments are tracked by cameras as he tries to reach his family. Close to reaching his home, he drives off the road and into a neighbor's front yard. His daughter Danny is the first to reach him, finding him severely injured and bleeding. The one crucial detail that the cameras missed was the identity of the person who attacked Jason. For Danny and her mother, the situation was confusing. Just 20 minutes after Jason left home, he was found in critical condition, struggling to tell them what had happened. Jason was stabbed 16 times, and his injuries were so severe that he could not be saved. After he was stabbed, he had about 1 to 3 minutes left to live. Detectives looked into Jason's family, but they eventually concluded that the murder was likely a random act of violence. They questioned various individuals over the years, some of whom were cleared, while others remained of interest. Josh and Danny Vesper, Jason's children, met with Chief Spencer ahead of the 10th anniversary of their father's murder in 2018. Debbie expressed her feelings and hopes of resolving the case. The family hoped that a $10,000 reward would encourage someone to come forward with crucial information. But as of now, the murderer is still yet to be caught. Do you think that the suspect will ever be found? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 6. A tattooed gang leader. On March 28, 2019, a gang member fatally shot his friend in a Miami parking garage in an execution-style killing. 29-year-old David Paneke faced deportation to Cuba, but he was arrested by the Miami-Dade Police Department after shooting 31-year-old Leandro Lopez. Surveillance video released by police shows a man identified as David driving a silver pickup truck with Leandro as his passenger. The footage shows David parking in a garage at around 4 a.m. as Leandro stands next to the driver's side with his back turned. David approaches him from behind and aims a gun at his face. Leandro tries to wrestle the firearm from David's hand, but the suspect overpowers him and forces him to the ground. After Leandro rises, they have a conversation for a few minutes. However, since the video lacks audio, the content of their discussion remains unknown. Based on their body language, it seems Leandro is explaining something to David. After the exchange, David abruptly shoots Leandro multiple times from close range. He then bends over Leandro's body, takes something from him, and drives away in the pickup truck. Leandro's lifeless body was discovered in the garage about 2 hours later. The victim was a tattoo artist from Miami and left behind a girlfriend and a young son. David was arrested on April 3rd on charges including first-degree murder, armed robbery, and firearm possession. During an interrogation video, a detective confronts David with screenshots from the garage video depicting the crime. The detective asks David why he shot Leandro, but David invokes his right to remain silent. David is the leader of a gang affiliated with Sir 13, an offshoot of a California-based gang comprising individuals of Mexican or Central American descent. Records show that David had been arrested in 2007 for concealed firearm possession and robbery with a deadly weapon. His tattoos include the number 13 with a gang sign on his head, Psycho on his back, and Suicide on his right chest. In 2008, he was imprisoned for attempted murder and armed robbery, and although he was released in 2017, he was later taken into custody and slated for deportation. Cuba blocked his deportation, after which a judge sentenced David to life in prison in Miami. Number 5. A man who never learns. On November 7th, 2021, a Las Vegas man who had been previously arrested for domestic abuse and was out on bail was arrested for murder. 32-year-old Michael Daniels was caught on surveillance camera purposefully ramming his pickup truck into a motorcycle ridden by 24-year-old Ryan Pollard, his estranged wife's new boyfriend. Daniels had been searching for Pollard because he believed he was involved with his estranged wife. Despite a history of domestic violence arrests, Daniels managed to avoid severe consequences in the past. He had been arrested 3 times since 2018 for violent incidents against his wife, but he often escaped prosecution due to alleged intimidation of witnesses or low bail amounts. In 2018, Daniels was accused of attempting to murder his estranged wife, her boyfriend, and her father by firing a gun at them, but he evaded trial due to alleged witness intimidation. He was also arrested for an alleged burglary in 2017, but was allowed to remain free with electronic monitoring. This time, Daniels was being held on a $2 million bail and was facing numerous charges related to the hit-and-run incident that led to Parla's death. A video released by the Las Vegas police showed Daniels crashing his truck into Parla's motorcycle at an intersection. Clark County District Attorney Chris Hamner pointed out how Daniels seemed to manipulate the court system to stay out of jail, despite his troubling history. Daniels had a pattern of intimidating witnesses to avoid prosecution, which allowed him to escape justice multiple times. In 2019, he was arrested for trying to strangle his wife, but the case was dismissed when he allegedly threatened her not to testify. Even when arrested for another attempt to strangle his wife in the next year, he was released on a $20,000 bond. But Daniels was facing serious consequences for the fatal hit-and-run incident, and as of now, he is still in jail waiting for his sentence. Number 4. Insurance money. In June 2018, a husband in southern Turkey pushed his pregnant wife off a cliff to her death because he wanted to cash in on a life insurance policy. The incident happened at Butterfly Valley, a location around 10 miles south of Fethiye. 40-year-old Hakan Aysel tricked his 32-year-old wife Semra, who feared heights, into going to the edge of a 1,000-foot cliff under the pretense of taking a selfie. He then pushed her over the edge. It was discovered that Hakan had previously taken out a £40,000 insurance policy shortly before her death, hoping to benefit from the payout. Police grew suspicious when Hakan tried to claim the insurance money shortly after his wife's death. At first, Hakan denied any involvement, but he was later found guilty. He tried to appeal on the grounds of insanity, but medical evaluations determined him to be mentally sound. During the trial, witnesses testified that Hakan showed no signs of distress or guilt after Semra fell off the cliff. One witness recalled that Hakan flagged him down for help after the incident. Despite the tragedy, Hakan appeared carefree and did not actively participate in the search for his wife's body. Hakan's behavior was unusual for someone whose spouse had just died. Recep Sahin, another person who witnessed the tragic event, shared that his daughter had captured the final moments of Semra on the clifftop before her fall. Sahin revealed that he and his family had stopped at the beautiful spot to enjoy the view of Kabak Bay. He mentioned that the couple came down the slope just as his daughter was filming the scene. Sahin added that they even made a casual joke about whether the man or the woman would throw the other one off the cliff. Both witnesses said that Hakan seemed very composed immediately after the incident, even as emergency services arrived at the scene. Another witness captured an unsettling moment when Hakan seemed to be forcefully leading Semra toward the edge of the cliff, but no one recorded the actual fall. Prosecutors argued that Hakan prolonged their stay on the clifftop on purpose for about 3 hours to ensure they were not being observed. Bank statements revealed that Hakan had taken out 7 loans in Semra's name, as reported by local news outlet NTV. He previously claimed that he had an interest in extreme sports and had taken out life insurance before marriage due to his involvement in activities like parachuting and bungee jumping. Regarding the insurance policy, Hakan said that he did not thoroughly examine it and that a banker had arranged the paperwork. He mentioned that he was not aware of an article in the policy that named him as the sole beneficiary in the event of Semra's death, with his family named as the beneficiaries if both passed away. Throughout the trial, Hakan consistently denied being responsible for Semra's death. He described the circumstances leading up to her fall, mentioning that after taking a photo, Semra had asked for her phone and he got up to retrieve it. When he turned back, he was shocked to find that she was not there, denying any involvement in her fall. Hakan has been sentenced to life in prison by the Fethiye High Criminal Court. He must serve a minimum of 30 years before he can be considered for release. Number 3. Subway Chaos. In August 2021, A surveillance camera captured an incident in New York City where a woman was fatally stabbed during a confrontation at a subway station. The victim, 30-year-old Latanya Watson, lost her life after getting into an argument with another woman while they were on a 3-line train that had reached Brownsville, Brooklyn. The dispute escalated and spilled onto the crowded platform at around 9:15 p.m. The surveillance footage showed the two women entering the subway station through the turnstiles. They got into a physical fight, grabbing each other's hair and scuffling. Watson, dressed in a beige top and blue jeans, lunged at the other woman who retaliated. The attacker, sporting a white t-shirt and distressed jeans, was pressed against a wall, and it appeared that Watson used pepper spray against her. In response, the assailant pulled out a small knife and stabbed Watson, who managed to move away a few seconds after being attacked. Later, 20-year-old Mia Simmons was arrested by police in connection with the incident. Simmons was charged with manslaughter and possession of a weapon. Simmons and Watson were not acquainted with each other, and the exact cause of their confrontation remains unclear. Watson was transported to Brookdale University Hospital nearby, but she passed away shortly afterward. Simmons also sustained injuries during the fight, and a trail of blood led authorities to her grandparents' residence. They revealed that Simmons had sought medical attention at a nearby medical center. Watson, a retail worker, lived with her fiancé and 12-year-old son in a home just 2 blocks away from the subway station where the tragedy occurred. Her father, Frank, described her as a beautiful person who was dedicated to her job. As of now, no information has been revealed about Simmons' sentencing. Number 2. A giant mistake. On May 17, 2020, 19-year-old Aya Hatcham, a law student, was caught in the crossfire of a dispute between rival businesses and killed in the process. The boss of a Blackburn tire company, 40-year-old Feroz Sulman, orchestrated the killing of a competing businessman named Pasha Khan. The feud between Sulman and Khan began in 2019 when Quickshine, the business next door to RI Tires, began selling tires. Previously, Quickshine had only been involved in car washing. This situation led to what has been described as bad blood between the parties, and from there, a plan was formulated to harm Khan or even someone else at Quickshine. But the hired gunman's aim went astray, resulting in the tragic death of innocent bystander Hatcham. She was walking near a garage and was hit by a stray bullet during the drive-by shooting that targeted Khan. The bullet struck Hatcham's chest with force, passing through her body and into a telegraph pole. She became an unintended victim of the long-standing feud between the tire company owners. While 7 of the men were convicted of Hatcham's murder, Judy Chapman was found guilty of manslaughter and acquitted of the attempted murder of Khan. The released footage also depicts the moment leading up to Hatcham's tragic end, capturing the car and the workers near the garage. The incident unfolded as Hatcham was on her way to a nearby supermarket to buy food for her family's Ramadan feast. The footage reveals her attackers and 35-year-old Ayaz Hussein's stunned reaction as he realized their actions had been caught on camera. Police started an extensive investigation, reviewing 88,000 hours of CCTV footage and seizing 120 mobile phones during their quest to arrest Hatcham's killers. This led to the arrest of 23 individuals, with 8 facing charges in connection to the case. Among the convicted, Sulman, who arranged the shooting, was sentenced to a minimum of 34 years in prison. The gunman, 33-year-old Zamir Raja, and his driver, 31-year-old Anthony Ennis, were both ordered to serve a minimum of 34 and 33 years respectively. More accomplices, including Hussein, 32-year-old Abu Bakr Satya, 29-year-old Uthman Satya, and 26-year-old Kashif Manzoor, all of whom received minimum sentences ranging from 27 to 32 years. Chapman, the partner of Uthman, was found guilty of manslaughter. One clip shows Chapman and Uthman picking up hitman Raja and driver Ennis on the day of the incident. Another clip captures Sulman's gaze toward Khan's Quickshine car wash, anticipating the event. 3 days later, Ennis traveled to the continent using his brother's passport. According to prosecutors, there's no evidence of a meeting between Raja and Ennis on CCTV. Initially, they acted like they did not know each other, but then they embraced in what is described as a brotherly hug. They thought they had gotten away with the murder. By this time, other individuals involved in the case, including Sulman, Chapman, Manzoor, Abu Bakr, Uthman and Ayaz, had all been arrested. Around 10 days after traveling to Portugal, Raja returned to the UK in a car he had rented with Ennis while in Portugal. In total, 7 men were jailed for life, for a total of over 200 years in prison as their minimum sentence. Number 1. A crime in broad daylight. In February 2023, a man shot a homeless person on a street in St. Louis in broad daylight. 23-year-old Deshaun Thomas was charged with murder after the fatal shooting of David Saldana. The arrest took place outside the city's public library on Olive Street after he fled the scene of the crime. The shooting occurred shortly after 10 a.m. on the sidewalk in front of the Globe building. A bystander recorded the incident, showing a man standing over Saldana, who was sitting on the edge of the road with his hands over his ears. The man in the footage briefly talks on his cell phone and then loads a pistol and shoots Saldana once in the head, causing his death. On Thomas's arrest, police discovered he had a gun and a bullet casing. Thomas's police mugshot displays a lightly bearded man with neck and forehead tattoos, wearing a red jumper. There are unconfirmed reports that Thomas and Saldana fought outside a nearby Shell gas station on North Tucker Boulevard. It's unclear whether the two men were acquainted with each other, and limited information has been made available about the suspect. The video capturing the shooting was shared on Twitter multiple times before being removed. Details regarding Thomas's criminal record or whether he was on bond at the time of the murder have not been disclosed by the authorities. Thomas faces charges of first-degree murder and armed criminal action and is yet to receive his sentence. Do you think that an increase in surveillance could help catch more criminals? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.